Hey everybody, Anthony here, FSU Off-Road. Welcome back to another video. Welcome to our Jeep build. In the last video, we kind of briefly went over a to-do list, and since then, I'm proud to say we've knocked a bunch of that stuff off the list. And today, it's gonna be no different. But today I wanna focus on knocking out the rear end stuff. That way we could, start moving this thing under its own power. Hopefully. Let's get to it. As you can see, there's quite a few red lines in here, some red X's on things that aren't super important. But today, I want to finish out this whole secondary completion right here, AKA the drive lines, rear third member, drive shafts, things like that. Now, it might take me a few days to get this stuff done, but I'm hoping to get this thing installed. That way, we can finish up back here and get this thing ready to move under its own power. Went ahead and got kind of everything laid out, got bearings and other stuff over there. Since I didn't go over it in the first on the front, I'll kind of go over everything now. So obviously the front is a high pinion, this is going to be a low pinion. This is a strange case, but Gearworks makes it also a case as well. And basically what we're utilizing this one for is because of the load bolt in there that goes against the ring gear here, kind of minimize deflection. And we also went with a 3 1/4 housing bearing option, which is what our bearings are. Now, in order for me to get the axle links and everything, I went ahead and put the spool in the housing here. And this is a cheap race Jeep, or at least as cheap as I can build it, so no air lockers or anything like that. It's going to be spooled front and rear. If something breaks, something's going to break. But not really worried about it. This is what the Millers do in their chassis and the Blylers and stuff. So if it works for them and they can be national champions, I'm going to follow suit. So now the difference in these ring gears, as mentioned before, I was trying to do a 543 gear. Unfortunately, the high pinion 543s, they were like 6 months out of stock, and obviously we couldn't wait that long, so I went with a 513/14. These are 514s from Nitro Gear and Axle. Went ahead and got their front and rear high pinion, low pinion ring gears. And these also, they're 10-inch ring gear, and they utilize the bigger spline. These are a 35 spline pinion ring. So that's what we're using. So what we're going to do is we're just going to use their installation guide here. Did it on the front, no problems. I'm going to do it on the rear. Go ahead and install our ring gears, clean up the housing really good, get it installed, get our bearing installed here with the caps, and just go through the motions. I'm not going to go into detail. There's hundreds of these videos on YouTube, so nobody wants to watch me do that, especially in detail when we got other things we need to worry about. So I'm gonna put this on a time lapse and we're gonna knock it out. Here it is in its entirety. Got it all done here. Pattern looks good. Roughly about 8 thousandths backlash on it. Went ahead and put a vent bellow here for venting purposes, but I might also run a secondary vent as well. I'm not sure if there's mixed opinions on these vent bellows, so I'm not really sure. Might try it, but I would hate to be puking out some fluid out of the axle seals. But now that we got everything torqued, went ahead and got our nut and everything torqued down, everything is torqued to spec. What I need to do now is I need to crawl underneath here, and I need to start cleaning up this housing from all the dirt and debris and everything that has accumulated over the past year of having these axles underneath here. Get it all cleaned out, get our seals installed on the side. That way we can put in our third member Okay, I'm just down here, kind of just got everything installed. The seals, got it all cleaned out. The seals installed, and silicone the seals where they sit on the lips there, and kind of put some grease in there for the axle shafts and stuff. That way, nothing's dry whenever it's assembled. Now, these I have flat washers, but that's not what I want to use. It's hard to see, but I don't want to use flat washers. I want to use little lock washers all the way around here. Which is what we're going to be doing. So I need to get some of those, and also I have a pinion guard to protect our pinion here. So this is going to be changing, obviously. So these bolts were just temporary, just for installation, getting everything mocked up. What I'll do is I'll just take these bolts out, put our pinion guard on, and get the necessary bolts for that. So I'll have to do that tomorrow. But everything's installed, everything's torqued, minus the cover bolts. Everything's clean. So this rear axle housing third member is all ready. Day 2 out here in the garage working on this rear end. Went and picked up some bolts, washers, things like that. That way we can finish up getting our third member installed, get our pinion guard and all that stuff in, and then we can do one of two things: work on axle shafts and slugs, or we can work on drive shafts. I don't know which one to do. Partly because I'm biased, I'm getting this thing done. I kind of want to do the rear axle shafts because I talked to Brandon over at Brannick, and we should be able to cut and get some stuff tweaked and get it to work. But I don't know yet. I'll have to do some additional measurements. But while I think about that, I'm going to go ahead and get this stuff installed. Now that we got the center third member all installed, I think I want to work on the axle shafts, only because if I can't make it work, I need to at least get them on order. So much like the front, the rear is just a little too long, the actual shafts. And let me show you what I mean. So this little slug is a 40 spline slug that fits into the unit bearing cup here, and this is how it fits in there. And the problem that I had was I didn't measure. I measured to the flange face, not where the slug will be seated like that. So the axle shaft actually stops here, not out here, and roughly that's like 1 3/4 inches. So luckily Brannick, the splines are actually longer. They're not like a, so you have 2-inch spline engagement on the spool, but luckily just how I measured everything, and after I remeasured everything before we built the center, these splines are 2 1/4 for the outer splines, which no problem there, don't have a problem with that. Plus you got these C-clips to help the axle shaft from pushing further. Over here, rather, it's 2 3/4. So I have some extra that I can cut off. And I think what we'll do, I think I'll have the full 2-inch thread spline engagement on the driver's side. The passenger side, it'll be more like 1 3/4 inches. Should be plenty. I shouldn't see a problem with that, but I am going to eventually get obviously another axle shaft on order. That way I do have 1, the proper shaft, and 2, a spare. So anywho's, yeah, let's work on this. That way this rear axle can be completely done, and then we can do drive lines later. Now that we got our axle shafts cut, you can see there, good as new, like it was meant to be. I just chamfered the edges just a little bit. Now we're going to get these installed and hopefully make some really good progress on getting this rear axle completed. Since we're behind on the front, maybe having the rear completely done would be a huge benefit. So, like I said, this is going to be the side that's only going to have 1 3/4 inch spline engagement. The other side will have the full 2 inches, but it's not a big deal. It should be plenty. And we'll get this fitted up in here and put our slug kit in. There's the finished product, all in there. As you can see, since we're spooled and we're turning the tire, you can see the yoke spinning over there. So now the next thing I want to do, I'm going to, I guess, prop up the chassis here and then take the coils out and then do this at full bump, full droop, get a measurement from our transfer case. That way we can put together a little drive shaft. All right, now that I've drooped everything, got all the dimensions at full bump, we're roughly from half to half is 31 3/4. At full droop, we're right at 34 1/4. So with that little bit of slip, not a big deal. Got the materials here to build one, so now I'm gonna get it all laid out. That way we can start working on this rear drive shaft, get it all tacked together and in place, and maybe underneath the chassis. I don't know, we'll see. All right, day 3, working on the drivetrain assembly, and in the last little portion, we got the drive shaft. All the parts is accumulated, kind of pieced together. So what I like to do when I'm building drive shafts is get my digital angle finder, and I like to put the drive shaft on a secure location. So I just use my little redneck bender here. And I like to zero it out as best I can without it ever moving. So we zero it out there, and then hopefully we'll come out here, be close enough to zero. So we still got some work to do. But what I'll do is I'll go and I'll get it within, you know, 1/1000th of a degree, or yeah, 0.1 degree, or whatever you want to call it. I try to get it as close to zero as possible, and I found that that is the best way to build your own drive shafts in your garage or wherever. It's pretty accurate, and it's worked for four rigs now for me. I haven't had any issues with it, so I want to continue to do this. And what I'll do is, once I get it zeroed out as best I can all the way around, I'll tack all 4 corners, and then later I'll go back and weld all this stuff, which is what I'm trying to do today. That way I can throw some paint on all the drive shafts, carrier bearing, and then we can throw them underneath the chassis. Now that I've got all the drive shafts, front and rear, all that put together, as well as our carrier bearing, I need to get them all the way welded up. And the best way to weld everything is to do one solid pass. In the past, I've just broke it up into 4 quarters, one side, one side, one side, one side. It's worked out pretty well, but the best ideal solution is to do one big revolution around everything, which is why I pulled in my great assistant. So she's going to rotate this slow enough to where I can do a full weld all the way around. Yep, welded. Yep, welded. Welded. Welded.
Man, get out of here with that.
Alright.
This one?
Front drive shaft's done. Check that off the list. Yep, rear drive shaft. Yeah.
That'll drive him crazy.
Yeah, that'll drive me nuts. Weld mid shaft. I'll have to do that. Go ahead, mark it out. I'm planning on doing that. Let's see what else. Yep, that's about it.
I love you.
I don't care if we got to mark something off the list. That's all that matters to me. I'm going to let that stuff cool down. We're going to paint it after a while. Get it installed tonight / maybe tomorrow. and finish out a bunch of other stuff on here.
You crushed it.
All right, day 4. Cheers. Having me a little donut action this morning before I get started here in the garage. Got everything painted yesterday, drive shafts, all that stuff taken care of. So what I want to do today is get all that stuff installed. But before I do that, we got to get this TMR carrier bearing built and installed. And before we do that, we got to weld up the mounts on the chassis. Then we can bolt it in, get this thing taken care of, put drive shafts in, and finish out this video. Just enjoying my donut here. Yesterday, while I was waiting for paint to dry, literally took care of a bunch of stuff on the chassis. Getting panels put back in, cables, cleaning up some of the wiring, transmission cooler lines, all that stuff ran. Keep it nice and tidy back here. Run up there. So, yeah, although paint was drying, we were still making good progress, and I was very happy with the way things turned out yesterday. There's our drive shafts. Shoot, I don't even know. I might even put a sticker on there. Made by FSU Off-Road. I don't know. But our list is dwindling down a little bit, which is a good thing. So we're going to keep knocking this out as best we can, and maybe in the next video, our list will be knocked out. Who knows? Now that we done playing on the jungle gym and got everything welded up and first coat painted anyways, it's time to go back here and get our carrier bearing built with basically just like a pinion bearing set, very similar. Have shims in the center there when you torque the bolts and stuff down. That way you can make sure you get the preload that you need on these bearings. So we're going to get this thing cleaned up and focus on getting this torque to spec. That way we can bolt it in the chassis once all that's done getting painted. Okay, so for the carrier bearing, everything is good. I did have to add a little bit of a shim to it for preload, but got it all grease fittings, seals. It's completely built. Went ahead and just impacted the nut on there, and once we get it in the chassis with the mid shaft and everything connected, I will torque it to the 220 foot-pounds. And as you can see on here, most stuff that requires like a big torque or something like that, or just something that I want to know quick on the fly, I've been writing it on the chassis. So there's a bunch of different numbers on there. Now the next thing I want to do, since I don't have my grease gun, I'm just going to start putting together all of our drive shafts, split the slip yokes apart, throw some grease in there, put them all back together. That way we can get them underneath the chassis. Check that out. Whoop. Got everything bolted in. I just need to mark the nuts. I just need to mark the nuts on all the U-straps. Again, everything's 1350 throughout the whole chassis, so makes packaging pretty nice. Should be good to go. Now I just gotta put the carrier bearing in and do the front, and when the carrier bearing's in, we'll torque it. But yeah, I just want to finish up getting these snugged, marked, move on to the next one. I'll show you when we're done. Well, that's it. After a long few days, this is day 4 of working on the drivetrain and just finishing everything up. It's all complete. I just finished torquing the last few U-joint bolts in here. As you can see, carrier bearing all welded up, installed, all the U-joints, everything rotates nice and smoothly. You can see I went ahead and marked all the U-bolts, just making it easy. Now, one of the big things that I forgot that kind of took me a little bit longer to do was I needed to make clearance for that upper bolt on the pinion support where the bearing is up here. It's kind of hard to see, but what I did was I just took the Dremel and I took out about 1/8 of an inch where the lock washer sits, and now the bolt, you can't really see it, but now the bolt fits flush, and that gives me the room that I needed because it was super close, but that'll give me the room that I needed to make the clearance at full bump. So now that that's all taken care of, we can mark all these things off the list and we can start working on something else. But I think that's going to conclude this video. We're getting really close, and I want to do one final video, and I think before we start throwing panels and everything in there, and I think I'll save that. So I'm going to stop the video here, and we'll save the last video for the upcoming video whenever it comes out. But make sure you guys subscribe if you haven't already. Make sure you hit the thumbs up, and we're really close, and it won't be much longer, and we'll be able to drive Tinkerita here out of the garage underneath her own power, and I cannot wait. I know a lot of you guys are excited as well, but I'm right there with you. I cannot wait to drive this thing. But make sure you stay tuned, and we'll see you guys in the next one. Peace.